Welcome back to Sista Brunch, the podcast celebrating Black women and gender expansive people thriving in entertainment and media. I'm Fanchon Cox. I'm the co-author of The Inclusion Writer, founder of Trujillo Productions, and co-creator and producer and host of this Sista Brunch podcast, where we live to uplift our sisters and siblings in the industry. To celebrate this milestone of our 5th season, we are bringing you some special surprises that we'll be sharing throughout the season. And the first one is that we are doing a series with alumni co-hosts from Black Girls Film Camp. Black Girls Film Camp provides a free 16-week experience where high school Black girls from across the United States pitch a story idea, and then a final 10 are selected to have their short films produced by the program. You can learn a whole lot more, you can support them, and have any of the girls in your life apply at blackgirlsfilmcamp.org. And today, I am so excited to introduce to you our co-host from Black Girls Film Camp, Avery Kelley.
Hi.
Hi, Avery. So tell us a little bit about you and the film that you made for Black Girls Film Camp.
First, I just want to say I'm so excited to be here. I love this podcast, and I just want to thank you so much for having me on to co-host today.
We're so glad you're here. We really are.
Oh, thank you. So my name is Avery. I'm 15 years old, and I was a part of the Black Girls Film Camp 2023 cohort this past year. And it was an amazing experience. I was able to work alongside 9 other amazing girls, and we were able to create our stories. And so my story this year was a short film called The All Arounds. So
very nice. Yes.
Thank you. So it's a story. I know. This poster was made by Black Girls Film Camp too. I'm telling you, if you're a part of this,
the posters are so good.
I know. They just do so much to be able to help you uplift and bring your vision to life that you have. Like it was just one of the best experiences ever for me as a creator and an aspiring filmmaker and writer. I just learned so much from them. And I was able to create my film, The All Arounds, which is following the story of 2 40-year-old frenemies who started off as childhood best friends, but have had an awful fallout. And the 2 grew up in a rec center where they used to do double dutch together and created their own team called The All Arounds. And now, over 30 years later, when they accidentally reunite and learn that their rec center that they grew up in is closing, the 2 work together to be able to get their team back together and find a way to raise this money to be able to get their childhood home back. So it's really just a story of Black sisterhood and love and friendship. And I'm so grateful that through Black Girls Film Camp, I was able to share the start of this story with the world. So if you're interested in Black Girls Film Camp, have never heard of it before, you need to check it out because They honestly changed my life, changed so many other girls' lives, and have really just opened so many doors, truly.
I love it. And I have to say that my niece Jada Cox was in the program with you.
Yes, that's my girl. I love Jada.
And by the way, I didn't have anything to do with it. She applied on her own, got in, her and her mom really made that happen.
And her film was amazing.
I loved amazing.
Full Circle.
The whole program. Well, yes, Full Circle. Watching this program is a true example for the rest of us in Hollywood who want to do inclusive storytelling, who want to involve Black girls and women. I love, we should shout out Dr. Jamaica Anderson, Sierra Davis, the founders. Okay, lovely. And all of this is so beautifully connected to our guest today because she is also all about uplifting Black girls, Black women, particularly Black Muslim women. And I have wanted to have her on this podcast for so long. So today's guest is Nia Malika Dixon. She's an award-winning filmmaker, founder of Audaz Entertainment, and a passionate advocate for Black Muslim voices in media. Welcome, Nia.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I've been following the podcast. I've been just enjoying all of your guests, and I'm very excited to be here with Avery because, as you said, I have a passion for uplifting young Black women and girls. And the film festival, Black Muslim Girl Fly Film Festival, is one way that we do that. And so, yes, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much, Fanchin.
I love it. You're wearing the shirt, so go ahead and tell us more about Black Muslim Girl Fly, which I've also had the pleasure of attending before, and it's so powerful.
Thank you so much. Yeah, wonderful. The story is that I, as a filmmaker, I came out to LA because I wanted to share more stories about people like me. I grew up in Baltimore, young Black Muslim girl, and I was a storyteller. But when I got here to LA, there weren't very many stories that reflected the experiences that I grew up witnessing and going through. So I decided to become a filmmaker. But at the 2018 Sundance Film Festival, I felt a little bit disheartened because at 2018, every panel that I attended, and I asked about Black Muslim stories, I was given a pivot. Oh, well, we're not really
Mm,
interested in those kinds of stories, but, and
mm,
so I was inspired to create Black Muslim Girl Fly because I felt like there are so many of us out there that don't get the opportunity to have our films at film festivals, that don't get the chance to be on panels and talk about our stories. And that's how BMG Fly Fest was born.
I love
Oh,
it.
that's so amazing. And I feel like also for me, just as a Black girl listening to you, I feel like it goes back to the power of representation. And I feel like that's something, especially at so many different film festivals, representation, it's booming, but there's still such a more way to go. And I feel like you have just really done such an amazing job with everything that you're doing and really showing how representation matters. And it's beautiful, honestly, to see. So it has me wondering a little bit more about your journey. Well, you mentioned that you started off in Baltimore and how you began following your dreams to become a writer, producer, director, and founding Audaz Entertainment.
Well, actually, before I moved to LA in 2005, I was a teacher. I taught elementary school, I taught middle school.
I didn't know that. I love that.
Yes,
I
I
love
was
that.
Yes.
very passionate about teaching as an educator. I'm a second generation educator. My mom was a teacher, and um,
Oh,
that was the job that I chose to do. Meanwhile, trying to break into the industry here in LA, I started teaching again. But it's not as easy as it seemed to me. I was very naive coming to LA thinking, oh yeah, I'll just, teach during the day and I'll work on my film projects during the night. But as an educator, it is a very all-consuming job. And so I found out that I had to give up teaching and put more focus on storytelling, which is what I did.
Hmm.
And
Oh my goodness. We're
it was,
twins. We're twins. I can't believe I can't believe I never knew this story about you. I had a very
yep,
similar path.
yep.
Oh
oh,
wow. Yeah, yeah. That I mean, and it's so tough to leave your students and at the same time you were a storyteller there as an educator, right? That's what you
Yes,
were doing
mm.
anyway. And then
yes.
the oh, I love that. Okay. Sorry. Keep going.
Well, no,
Keep
I love that because I feel like there are so many of us out there that we need validation too. So
Yes, yes.
thank you for sharing
Mm.
that, Fanchon. But yeah, it was really a struggle because at first I thought, all right, I'd like to be a writer. I have these ideas for a TV show about Black Muslim girls, and I soon found out that there's a hierarchy in Hollywood. So I had to like learn that if I wanted to be a writer on a TV show, I had to start as like an assistant somewhere, and then the whole process was something that I didn't find intimidating. However, I was faced with, back in 2005, it's unfortunate to say, the dilemma of choosing my values and beliefs versus conforming to some of the things that these entities wanted me to do. And the biggest thing was I actually lost a job because I refused to take off my scarf. And so
Mm,
I kind of like had
Mm.
this uh like come to Jesus moment where I had to decide, Nia, are you going to like keep fighting up against these obstacles and try to break into Hollywood, or are you going to just try to break off on your own, which is what I did. I just chose to
Mm.
become an independent, and the struggle is real, y'all. Raising money for projects, but I did it back when Craigslist was an actual thing. I crewed up my
Mm.
first film with
Yes.
the help of Craigslist, and I shot my first film. Um, it was called Temporary Loss of Power, and it was about these two women who get trapped in an elevator. And it was a really short snippet into what I will find my voice in later on, the dynamics between different women and how they interact with one another. And it was about power and recognizing your own power in situations and being able to communicate that. And so that was my first film.
Wow.
Oh, I
So
love
I
that.
know that again, because when we are telling the story, we involve us, right? And and
Hmm.
back to your point of Avery about the importance of representation. It's not only seeing us; it's that the actual stories that are told are broader and they're right. That we're reaching
Yes.
people who otherwise wouldn't get to see themselves.
Right.
What does a day in the life look like for you? Obviously, we'll say just to pin a little bit of a timing on this episode. We're in the midst of a writer's strike and an
Mm.
actor strike, right? What is a day to day like for you at Audaz?
So fast forward to now, because we first got started back in 2018. Actually, no, I started Audaz Entertainment with my first film, that was
Okay.
2006. But I
Wow.
didn't really, it wasn't a formal business. It was just me raising funds and shooting films, short films, and then eventually. I think it was around 2011 that I realized, oh, I need to like make this into a business entity. And that's when I started like recruiting other people to join. And now we have a skeleton crew of folks because, we're
Yes.
small and modest, but
Mm-hmm.
small and mighty.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I
Hmm.
have a remote assistant, and then there's me. But a day in the life usually revolves around me juggling two roles. One as the CEO of Audaz Entertainment, and one as the founder of BMG Fly, Black Muslim Girl Fly. And the two projects that I have going right now are we're getting a guided journal and an empowerment program off the ground with BMG Fly.
Yes.
And
Yay.
I'm working on a series for Audaz Entertainment called Sex, Love, and Holocaust, which I devote almost all of my time with polishing this script. So I'm past the development stage, and so now I literally spend maybe 4 to 6 hours a day writing and working on this series.
What was the last word you said in the title?
Sex, love, and Holocaust.
What is a
So
halakha?
I'm glad you asked. A halakha is a study group that is an informal study group, very similar to what other people might call Bible study, where a group of people get together to study a topic using our holy book, which is the Quran, and stories from the prophet, our prophet Muhammad. And the women in my story meet every Friday for their weekly halakha together. But it's not just for the spiritual rejuvenation. They share food with each other, they bring their children there, and it's a sisterhood gathering. And that's the anchor for the stories. And
Mm.
the
It
five
sounds
women,
like a sister brunch, I just have to say.
exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And these five different women of varying different ethnic backgrounds come together and they share their love, their culture, their friendship, and their spiritual rejuvenation. And that's what the show is about. And it just so happens to take place in 2001 during the time of 9/11.
Mm.
Oh, that is beautiful. Oh my gosh. And also, that's my first time learning about what a halakha is. And so, just to be able to learn that as well, it shows the importance of representation because it's not only allowing different communities to be able to actually see themselves in a positive way, but also allow other communities to be able to have a learning moment as well. And so, I love that idea. I love all of the passion that you're putting into it. And that actually really leads and segues us into the next question about how you have been such a strong advocate for Black and Muslim representation. And how do you select projects and talent to work with when you're trying to tell these stories properly?
Mm.
That's a really good question, because actually, for Audaz Entertainment, I just had a meeting this week with a young filmmaker who was seeking a producer. She wanted me to produce her
Hmm.
film. And it was a good learning experience for her because it was the first time that she had a meeting to pitch a producer to put her project together. A young Black Muslim woman, originally from New York. And we had a conversation about the project. And just to answer your question in a short way, it's all about story. It's all about
Mm.
story. Before I even embark on crewing up or like making sure we have funds or any of that, that story has to be really solid. And you, as the writer or director, have to know it inside and out and be able to communicate solidly what that story is.
Mm.
And
Mm.
that was what we talked about. And she had really great ideas visually. Everything was so good. Like, I really wanted to produce her project. But I did let her know that I wanted to see more work, more polish on the characters in her story. I
Mm.
wanted like a bigger arc for the characters because that's so important. I wanted her to like be very confident in why she's telling the story, what she wanted her audience to walk away from, because I'm a firm believer that as storytellers, it's a responsibility,
Mm.
and it's also it's very important that you are not sending a message, but you're leaving your audience changed.
Yes, Nia.
Mm.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
It really that piece of thank you. We can call it impact. I often use that word, but that there you want to say something, right? Like,
Yes.
and hopefully, and I think sometimes I wish that we didn't have always the burden of teaching or of being the person, the person or identity that is lacking in representation, but we
Mhm.
are, right? Like,
Mhm.
that's just the truth of all of us. So when I look at Black Girls Film Camp, when I look at the films that they did, they are always rooted in what is it like to be this person who otherwise is not seen enough.
Right.
And that's
Mm.
just the truth. So when we accept that and we figure out how do we include that in our stories, I think that really is so important. I'm really glad that you're planting those seeds for the project that you're considering. It's so
Yeah,
important.
definitely. And I would love to produce her. She had such a great idea. I just want you all to know that. And as a Black Muslim woman, I wanted her to know that. Like, you have these beautiful ideas and they deserve the care and attention to make it as great as it can be.
I love it.
Mhm.
Can you talk about the differences between representation of Muslim people as a whole and representation of Black Muslim people and Black Muslim women and girls? What are those differences there? And do you find that there are challenges because yours is Black and Muslim?
Yeah, you definitely hit it right on the head right there because within Hollywood, we've seen a wave recently of more Muslim um, friendly stories. And
Mhm.
I'll give you like examples of one of the things that I enjoyed watching was Ms. Marvel. And,
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
that was very enjoyable. And a friend of mine actually starred in Trevina Springer
Okay.
as a Black Muslim woman. So these kinds of stories often include immigrant Muslims to America. And I was
Mhm.
so pleased that they included that one character Trevina's character as a Black Muslim woman, because usually, unfortunately, we are left out of the narrative.
Right.
If you
Right.
look over the course of time, there aren't very many stories, film or television, with Black Muslim characters represented. And the first one
It's
that people
true.
think about is Malcolm X, right? The movie Malcolm X, because
Yeah.
Malcolm was Muslim. So, yeah, but for the most part, we are still struggling to have Black and Muslim people represented equally. Most recently, though, Swagger on Apple TV,
Yes. Oh,
has
that's my
that character.
show.
I
Yes.
love
Yes.
And I
it.
want to shout out to Najla Mu'min and Reggie Bythewood and all the crew over there for making sure that that character has authenticity, that shows up, fully, because those kinds of characters, when they're on screen, that lets everybody know that these people exist and, they deserve just as much a space, especially because where it's located, the story takes place in the DMV where I'm from. So it's like, I know
Yes.
there are Black Muslim people there,
You're flying. Yes, yes.
Exactly. So
Now we need to
yeah.
get you on payroll for the show. This is for real. This is my thing. Is like when because I've followed your work for so long. And by the way, I have to shout out your Twitter, now called X, but you are so active, and you're a true activist, and you utilize that. I mean, speaking of utilizing storytelling for impact, that's a place where you do that on your social media. So I just gotta, give it up for you. And at the same time, I'm like, nah, how people not just paying you money? Like a
I
lot of
hear
times
you.
the stuff we putting out, is kind of like it's for free. And
Right.
you are such a strong representative. I just want to break in and say I wish for you to have all of the both credit and financial compensation for all of the hard work you do, because you're so
Mhm.
focused on this identity and focused on making sure we get broader representation. So hopefully the Bythewoods and y'all are listening, because we
I
have we
hope
have
so.
someone right here.
I would be more than honored, definitely, because I have so many stories to share. And um, truth be told, my birthday's tomorrow and I'll be 49.
Yay! Happy before birthday.
Thank you.
Happy. Oh,
And I have at least 49 years of experience,
that's right.
Mhm.
knowledge and experience, but
You'll be
yeah,
1 year away from the best time of your life, because once you hit 50, sister, it is you stop caring about a
I
lot
hear
of
it.
things that didn't matter.
So I've been told. I'm looking forward to
It
that.
feels
Yeah.
good, but meanwhile, happy birthday! Yeah.
Thank
Oh,
you.
we're
Thank
proud
you.
to
Oh,
have you
happy
on.
before birthday.
Yes.
I do want to add, like when you mentioned Twitter, one of the most recent, most pleasant experiences that I've had on Twitter this past month is interacting with one of the executives who create Interview with a Vampire. So, yeah, as you said, I'm very
Oh.
active on Twitter, and I talk about TV shows and their storylines and how they impact the audience, specifically folks like me. And there was one episode where there was something that didn't really sit right with me with regard to Muslim representation. And I messaged her to let her know. And I did so in a really good way that lets her know I appreciate the show because I really adore that show. It's near perfect television. It really is.
Mm.
Just to give them a shout
Hmm.
out. They're just phenomenal over there. But this one thing where a character was praying and the call to prayer was heard and it was on a loop and the character was continuing to pray while the call to prayer was going, and that is so not what we do. And
Mm.
it kind of like
Mm.
felt like nails on a chalkboard because once the call to prayer ends, then we pray.
Okay.
Mm.
And the call to prayer itself is not necessarily a song, it's more like a poem. So if you put it on a loop to repeat the same words over and over again, it's not necessarily doing what it's supposed to do. if you get my drift.
Yes,
So,
yes.
Yes.
so I explained that to her, and she was very happy to hear that, like that feedback, as well as to get the kudos that I thought the show deserved. And she was very gracious in receiving my note, and she let me know how much she appreciated that feedback. And I just want to give her a shout out because not all executives respond that way.
Hmm. Wow.
And we will shout you out for the way that you approached it. It's so tough. Listen, I'm not one to I will utilize shaming in public occasionally. I have done it. Took down my Twitter finally, so maybe people won't see it right. But I never got the results that I was right. Like the result was I got out what was inside of me, and I was upset about lack of representation.
Hmm.
But you again, your I mean, this is a perfect example of how you plant seeds for actual change and impact.
Truly.
Really, really, I just love it. I just love it. Avery, I've been yapping. What you?
No. I feel honestly, and sometimes as a viewer, it can be hard for you to see this representation of yourself, but it's not true representation of
Hmm.
yourself. And
Yeah,
so for you to go out and say something so it can be corrected and altered for next time so it won't be more false representation. That's
right.
honestly what television, media, honestly, all fields of work need. And so for you to do that and also through your work be showing positive representation, and because it's what you are and you're representing yourself, so other people who are exactly like you and look like you can see the same representation for themselves. And it's such a powerful thing that I feel like there needs to be more of. So really it's like what you have said is such a stepping stone for so many others to be able to do the same, which is why I'm like, I look up to you. I know everybody else listening to this is
Aw,
looking up to you
I
Absolutely.
because
appreciate that.
the work that you do is just amazing. And honestly, it makes me wonder a question. So I know that you had discussed before when you first started Audaz Entertainment, you decided to go the independent route. What would you say are a few trials and tribulations that you have went through being starting off as an independent and continuing independent work? What is some advice that you may have for anyone else also going that same route based off of your personal experience?
Well, honestly, the biggest challenge has been raising funds. That really is the
Hmm.
biggest challenge. And in order to come across to potential investors, even if they're crowdfunding investors, you really have to know your story inside and out. This goes back to what we were talking about earlier.
Hmm.
And my biggest advice is to be very confident in the story that you're telling and be unwavering in staying true to that. And also keeping in mind that I'm an advocate for responsible storytelling. I'm
Hmm.
very big on research. I'm very big on getting feedback from people who are, like you said earlier, represented in the media. They want to see it authentically. If I don't
Hmm.
have knowledge about it, I always seek out those who are knowledgeable.
Yes.
So don't be afraid to ask for help. But also, the biggest thing is to stay true to your vision. There are so many distractions, there's so many and there are so many opportunities that may present themselves as viable and great, but then when you dig a little deeper, they require certain sacrifices that you should not have to make
Mm.
for your vision. So, yeah, sometimes you may have to make some sacrifices, but always remain true to that vision and always be confident in your storytelling.
I love it.
Hmm.
I feel like that leads us well, Avery, into our signature Sister Brunch question.
Yes, the signature Sister Brunch question. So, the podcast celebrating Black women and gender expansive people thriving in entertainment and media. And so, once again, I just honestly have to ask the question. You're sitting down to a Sister Brunch with younger Nia, your younger self. What are you both eating? What are you both drinking? And what are you going to tell her?
That is a good question. And my signature drink is lemonade. I will be
Oh.
sipping lemonade, as will my younger self that
Nice,
she
nice.
squeezed herself because I had a special recipe and I literally sold lemonade every summer outside of
Yay.
Preakness.
Oh.
And those of you who are from Baltimore, y'all know what I'm talking about, Preakness. And so, yes, our signature lemonade.
Nice.
And
Can you? Is there a secret to the
Yes,
recipe?
is there a secret, or are we not allowed to know?
Maybe we
you
won't
know,
tell anybody.
honestly,
Just
I
this
really
podcast.
believe the secret ingredient is love. And that sounds corny, but when I was little,
Beautiful.
I was so
Aw.
passionate about what I was doing. And I used my mom's little Tupperware. That, see, I'm showing my age now. A little Tupperware lemon squeezer, and I would squeeze by hand the lemons.
Yes.
And I'm
Oh, wow.
Yes, and I might have put a little bit too much sugar, but nobody complained about
There you
that.
go.
Right, right. Good
Yes,
lemonade. May need
that's
you to make
right.
me a glass. Like, I want a
Yes,
glass of special
Yes,
young
it
Nia
sounds
lemonade.
delicious.
that's right.
I also love that you were already raising funds. The thing that you were
Oh,
going to have to eventually do for your
Yes.
films, you were like, "Let me learn how to
yes.
do this on with a lemonade stand." That
That
classic.
was my first business as CEO Nia.
Yes.
I love it.
Entrepreneur.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. And we will be chatting about the one thing that I want little Nia to remember, and that will be to trust your instinct. Trust your inner voice, trust that instinct that God gave you, and have faith in yourself because the world out there may not necessarily believe in you, but you got to believe in you because God believes in you. So make it happen.
Yes.
Yes.
Nia Malika Dixon, thank you so much for coming on season 5 of Sista Brunch, for joining us, for really being an incredible role model to Avery, to all the
Truly,
girls of Black Girls
yes.
Film Camp, to me.
Oh,
Um,
I
s-
appreciate it.
Truly, these days you are the only reason I go on Twitter anymore.
Uh-oh.
But truly, there is that, when you curate just the right
Yep.
people and then still some other voices come through. And every time I seek yours out, I get wisdom, I get inspiration,
Oh,
and I learn about Black Muslim representation in ways that I don't get it elsewhere. So we're
I
so
appreciate
grateful.
that.
Yes.
Oh,
So
before we
grateful.
go, I want to share something that's a sneak peek that I wanted to share with you
We get a
guys.
sneak
Oh,
peek.
Sister Brunch exclusive?
Yes.
I've been working on this, and it is the guided
Oh,
journal for our organization. You
That's
see all the little tabs because this is
beautiful.
our proof. We're not even ready to publish yet,
Yes.
but it will be soon.
ah,
But just a sneak peek that this is a journal that I created for young girls, just so
Oh,
that they can keep track of their day. And this is our table of contents where I'll read some of it to you.
yes.
There is an
ooh,
introduction to let them know that they're powerful. We have a Quran tracker, which, like I said earlier, Quran is a big deal in our lives, and the planner, which is a big chunk of it, because I wanted to instill that as Black Muslim women and girls, you are powerful and you can harness that power and you can empower yourself. It comes from within, and everything that you need to win has already been placed inside you. And this guided journal will help you to master that, harness that, and drive your success. And so look for that to be coming out pretty soon. I'm so excited about this, and I just wanted to share that with you guys because it's something that's really close to my heart.
oh, I'm so excited for you. That's beautiful. And we got a Sister Brunch
I know we get an
exclusive.
exclusive. Now we're gonna have to figure out how to get this episode out early before this comes out, because I also feel like that's an incredible gift. We'll be posting these starting around Black History Month, so certainly there's always good gifts for Black History Month. But
Yes.
That's a gift right there.
right, that's a really good one. Nia, when do you sleep? That's a
It's a
I hear
genuine
you.
question.
you,
Genuine
Yes.
question.
I'm a go to bed early, get up early person. Believe it or not, I'm usually up at like 4 in the morning to start my day.
okay. Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. All right.
But
Well,
yeah.
we were so glad to have you, and we, and help to spread the word about who you are and what you're doing. We will just say hire this woman if she's available.
I hear you.
As a writer, as a producer, we're here to continue to support you in your work, and we're so proud to have you on Sister Brunch.
I totally appreciate it, and it has been an honor. Thank you so much for having me.